Hey people, welcome to the land down under. I'm going to go through my presentation on my PowerPoint as a video. Hopefully you guys have already seen it and in the Loom presentation. It's the same information, but if you're struggling to access it on Loom, then you can obviously look at the PowerPoint and follow along with this video. On the first page of this, the PowerPoint, I have a map of Australia. Now, Australia is one of the largest islands in the world, but it's also the smallest continent. It's the only place that's a continent and a country at the same time. And as you can see, if you look around the edge of the map, almost all of the major cities are around the coast. Most of the people live around the coast. All right. Geography. Let's talk about this. You can look on the next page. It's in the southern hemisphere. We're in the northern hemisphere. It's springtime. We're about to go into summer. The seasons are switched. In Australia right now, it's fall. They're about to go into winter. Think about it. When it's Christmas, they're at the beach. How unfair is that? All right. So one of the reasons that most of the major cities are around the coast is because 1/3 of the country is desert, and it's basically in the middle. So you've got a huge desert. I've attached two pictures to this page. One of them is Ayers Rock. Now, the native people there call it Uluru. It is the largest single rock in the world. It rises over 1,000 feet. It's a sacred site for the native Aborigines, and up until about a year ago, you could, as a tourist, go climb Ayers Rock. Can't do that anymore. It is closed off to tourists. The other picture that I have here is of the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef is a huge, huge coral reef that's off the coast of Australia, and there's literally hundreds of different types of coral and thousands of different kinds of fish and animals that call the Great Barrier Reef home. It affects the weather, the climate in Australia, and a lot of the wildlife that you find there. Okay, you can go to the next page now. It's history. And you see a picture of a native Aboriginal man playing a didgeridoo. A didgeridoo is a native instrument, kind of like a trumpet, only a lot harder to play. And that's coming from experience. The Aborigines came to Australia about 50,000 years ago. They've been there a long time. The first Europeans to come were actually the Dutch. They came in 1606 by accident. The British began settling Australia and sending people to settle there in the late 1700s, basically around 1788, give or take. They set it up as a colony for people in prison. Remember when we talked about the 13 colonies and how Georgia was set up as what we call a penal colony? It's a colony where prisoners go. So the people who had, they didn't do big crimes. They were in jail for little things, or they were in debt and they couldn't pay back their debts, so they were in prison. They were sent off to Georgia to start a new colony, start a new life. They were the people nobody really wanted. Well, after the United States declared independence, they had to have somewhere to send their criminals. They set up Australia. Many of the people who can trace their lineage, their ancestors back to some of the original European or British descendants, came because they were debtors or small-time criminals. In 1851, about 70 years after Britain started sending her criminals there, they had a gold rush. Gold was discovered, and there was a huge explosion in population. Lots of people moved to Australia during that time. All right, so today, the capital city is Canberra. It's not Melbourne, it's not Sydney. Melbourne and Sydney are the two largest cities. They are the most well-known. And while they were fighting it out to see who would be the capital, Canberra came in there, made their case, and became the capital. So, point made. Don't get distracted fighting against someone. Somebody else may come take your place. Currency is the Australian dollar, and there's a picture of it here. Their official language is English. Their government is a democracy. They elect their leaders, but they never actually declared independence from Britain, so they still recognize the Queen of England as having ties to their government, and they are closely tied to the British economy. 1 out of every 4 people in Australia was not born in Australia. They have a huge, diverse population of people from all over the world. So that's interesting to know. Climate, okay, that's your landscape around you. Like I said, 1/3 of the country is desert. One of the reasons a lot of people will move there is because most of the climate on the country is warm and sunny. Now, snow is possible in some places, but for the most part, it's a warm climate. It stays sunny. They have lots of farms in the southeast and southwest. They have a rainforest in the north. They have beautiful beaches. So here are a few pictures on this page about climate that show you the different kinds of landscape that you could see in Australia. Just remember, warm and sunny. Whether it's wet or dry, it's warm and sunny. Now, we can't talk about Australia without talking about the animals. So here we go. The platypus, the kangaroos, and koalas are only found in Australia, and there are more kangaroos than humans. Kind of scary because they kick. If you got Disney Plus and you watch Dr. T, Lone Star Vet, whatever, they actually had a show on there where they had to do surgery on a kangaroo's leg. That was kind of cool. All right, other kinds of animals. There are 36 types of poisonous funnel spiders and over 20 different kinds of poisonous snakes, including the taipan, which is one of the most deadly snakes in the world. That means there are over 50 ways to die from poisonous spiders and snakes if you go to live in Australia. So while you're looking at those beautiful beaches, keep in mind there are reasons not to move there as well. Just saying. The final page I have on here is on interesting facts. Highway 1 crosses the entire continent. It is the longest highway in the world. It is 9,000 miles long. Talk about a road trip. I've given you a picture here of the Sydney Opera House. It's one of the most famous landmarks in Sydney Harbor because of the unique shape. If you look up Australia, without a doubt, that is one of the pictures you will see. There are some famous people who come from Australia, like Russell Crowe and Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. That's just a few. Okay, so technically Russell Crowe was born in New Zealand, but he moved to Australia when he was 4, so he was raised there and he's going to count as being from Australia. Okay, final fact. Mount Disappointment. Yes, there really is a Mount Disappointment. Apparently, someone climbed this mountain and the view is so terrible they named it Mount Disappointment and no one thought to change it. Interesting but true. All right, I hope you like these fun facts about Australia. Take some time to look up the Australian flag and some of their food, which is kind of, I could take it or leave it. But you're welcome to look up their food. If you make something Australian, take a picture and send it to me. If you find out more interesting facts, send me those as well. You can email me or you can send me that message on Remind. I hope you've enjoyed this little presentation, and I hope that you enjoy your weekend.